Let's go. Another episode of Tech on Ice. I wanted to talk a little bit about one of my favorite things to do in regards to tech, and that's speaking at tech conferences. Um, for folks who, most of the folks who probably watch this video know that I'm a speaker. I speak at conferences, and I want to talk a little bit about how I got started in it and how you can get started in if it's something you're interested in, and why it's one of the great things that you can do in the community to really just make the community a bit better and a bit more make it a bit more enjoyable for you if you enjoy this sort of thing. All right, so I'll stop rambling. So I got into public speaking. um, so I used to live in New York City. I used to go to the New York City .NET meetup, which is hosted in the Microsoft office in Times Square. And then eventually, I decided one time, maybe I should speak. There's a handful of things that I think that I know a little bit about, and want to share my knowledge, share my enthusiasm with the community. I did it once and I absolutely loved it. I did it a few more times, and then I took a plunge and I submitted to a conference. And then it kind of went from there. And now, I get the opportunity to, speak all over the world talking about tech, which is absolutely wild if you know my upbringing. I never left the state of Washington until I was like 19, I think. So for that to then go to, be able to fly to Europe, South America, it's crazy. Anyway, so the question that people have asked me, if I meet somebody at a conference that's an attendee, or if I meet somebody at a meetup or whatever, they're like, oh, how do I get into the speaking thing? It seems like, there's a lot of people that do it. And my first response is there's not a lot. There's a fair amount of people, but in the grand scheme of things, you look at all the people in tech, millions of developers, how many of them are actual public speakers? Maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000. It's like percentage points, right? So it's not like you're completely against all odds. What I will say is that, especially, your opportunities are fairly limited, especially after the pandemic. Like in the US, for instance, for some context, there used to be a thriving meetup community in the US, and since the pandemic, it hasn't really came back. Going into a sponsored office and having pizza and people talking about tech, that's not really a thing. It is in Europe. It's kind of rebounded in Europe and other parts of the world, but in the US, it just hasn't really rebounded back. So getting opportunities to speak at meetups and then at conferences, it can be a bit challenging, especially if you're getting started. But a lot of conference organizers, they make an effort to look for people that are new to speaking or it's their first time speaking or what have you. But this is my recommendation for folks, regardless. So if you work at a company, look for opportunities to speak in front of people at your company, like brown bag sessions, presenting on tech topics. There's opportunities at most companies to do those sort of things, and see if you like it. If you like standing in front of a group of your colleagues and talking about tech, more than likely you'll like doing it to people you don't know in a smaller setting, and then maybe in a bigger setting. And then from there, you build where your comfort level is, and if you have an opportunity to speak out in the community, like in a meetup, maybe there is a meetup in your local area, doing that, and then submitting for conferences. So most conferences, they use Sessionize, which is a website to kind of manage conferences. So you go into Sessionize. Sessionize is pretty cool because it'll show you also, based on where your levels of areas of interest are in tech or in general, what conferences you could potentially submit to. And it does it not just for conferences, but there's also meetups, online meetups, in-person meetups, right? So definitely, if you're interested, just sign up for a free Sessionize account and take a look at the events that are there. And then from there, I think one of the great things too is you can network and get feedback from your peers, whether they're already speakers or not speakers. Those folks can give you some insights as to how to craft a title, how to craft an abstract. One thing that I think is important too is you don't have to be a definitive expert on something. I'll give myself for example. I'm not an expert in anything. I know a fair amount of a lot of things, and there are things that I'm passionate about, and my passion shines through when I speak in front of people. And I love seeing people get to the level that I'm at. during a presentation, right? So like, don't think for a second, don't let the imposter syndrome creep in and talk about, hey, I don't know enough about this topic. If you feel comfortable enough about speaking about a topic at a conference, the attendees know less than you. And the attendees that know as much or more than you, they'll leave. They'll realize, oh, this is 100, 200 level, and I'm looking for 400 level, and they'll leave. And that's fine. It's okay for people to leave your session because they probably are at the same level as you and they don't want to waste anyone's time, which is totally cool. It is pretty jarring the first couple of times that have somebody walks out, especially if it's a smaller room. That's fine. Not a big deal. So in general, I think the biggest thing that I can give for feed is just network. Look for opportunities in your area, either in your company or in your community, and just get excited about tech because tech is great. And I think we need more people that think tech is great to go out and speak at conferences because it's vital to the tech community to kind of share that knowledge. Anyway, hope that was helpful. If you're a speaker, comment in this video, like what's some of the tips you have for getting started speaking. If you're interested, you can reach out to me directly. I have no problem chatting with you if you're interested in speaking. And obviously, like always, like and subscribe this video. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.